Hi there guys, in this video I'm going to show you a way of making some pretty good money fairly easily. Not long ago we had Ria where you could actually generate some massive amounts of numbers. However, since then Frontier have kind of basically nerfed it and it still potentially works, but it's very random on how much money you're going to make per run. Now this method is based on a video created by Down to Earth Astronomy. He does create some fantastic content, so I suggest you go and have a look if you haven't already done so. The video that it's actually based on is quite a long video, and I thought what I could do is to kind of summarize it and make it a little bit more easier to understand for you, as I found his video was quite long. But like I said, if you want the full explanation of and how this sort of thing works, then I suggest go and check it out the video. Anyway, so let's have a look and see what we need to do. So this is based on a mission that you get when docked at Maia. When you do, you'll get an incoming message asking you for either Thargoid biological matter, Thargoid technology samples, or Thargoid resin. The mission will ask for between 1 to 4 units, and you'll often get around about 4 to 5 or even 6 million per unit. Ideally, you are looking for the ones asking for 3 or 4 units. There is two ways of also kind of doing this, because you can actually collect the resources and then come here, or you can actually get the mission and then go and get the resources. It's entirely up to you which way you do that. There's perks obviously for doing each other way. So for the build, you can use pretty much any ship you like. Obviously something like an Anaconda is better because it's got more internal compartments. We don't need very high class internal compartments, we just need a lot of them. So for hardpoint you could fit stuff here, as you do get interdicted somewhat, but you can actually run away, so you don't necessarily need to fit weapons as such. Utilities is entirely up to you. So for the core internal, pretty much put whatever you like in. It's just the frameshift drive. If you can get around about 40 light year jump, that would be ideal, as that would mean you can do the jump to the other place in one go. But if you have to do it in multiple goes, that's not a problem. It's just going to slow down the run essentially. So for the optional internals, what we need to do is to kind of fit certain things and then pad it up. So what I suggest is to fit a planetary hangar. So you've got an SRV, as this is a requirement as you will be going on a planet to collect them resources. So the next thing I would suggest going to fit is a shield. You could potentially not bother with a shield if you feel like it, but as you'll be landing on planets and undocking and that, I would suggest fitting a shield as such. This is also another optional, which is a docking computer. This does make the run a lot easier, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Now what I suggest is, once you've put those in, is to fill all your other slots up with corrosive resistance cargo racks. You can get these from Professor Palin. I believe you might be able to get them without having to have them unlocked. However, I'm not entirely sure on that. You may need to have him unlocked. Obviously for this you're going to need horizons also, because you'll be landing on the planet and needing the engineers. So I would also suggest putting a discovery scanner the first time you do this, as the area will be kind of empty in HIP. So like I said, you can do this two different ways. You can either collect the mission in Maia or actually collect the resources in HIP 17125. So this is the place here. It is a bit away from the human globe, as you can see, and it's around about 37 light years, and that's why I'm kind of saying you want around about 40 light year jump, just because so you can do this in one go. But if you have to do it in multiples, you just have to. So once you get to HIP, you'll need to look for planet A3A. If you can't actually see it very well, I found you can actually get to there by going to A4A. But like I said, the discovery scanner will help you out here, and you'll be able to scan the area to see what there is available. So that's why you're going to need it on the first go. You also won't have the crash site marking straight away either, because you're going to have to actually find the location. Now the actual location of the crash site is minus 65.8 to 48.8. However, you should only need them coordinates once, as when you scan the ship it will put a marker for you, so this will make it a lot easier to find each time, as you won't actually need to follow those coordinates. So once you're on the surface, I suggest getting your SRV out. So what we need to do the first time, and this is only needed once, is to scan this Thargoid ship so we have the crash site marking, as this makes life a lot easier. However, this marker is actually under the floor and is very difficult to actually scan. So if we get round the sort of back of the ship and round this sort of side here, you'll see a white mark appear, and here you can see we've got the Thargoid Scout. So I suggest selecting it. That saves trying to keep selecting it in air. Now just boost up in the air and kind of look at the floor. Now you'll see a kind of Thargoid Scout thing there. So what you need to do is to actually scan that, which is, I know, a pain in the arse, but hopefully after a few attempts you can do that. I have tried quite a few things that were suggested in Down to Earth Astronomy, like getting the buggy on its side and using the turret. However, as soon as you use the turret, it loses the lock, and I found having that lock does make it a bit easier to scan. So once you've done that, it will leave you free to collect the resources. So here we have 3 different resources we want to collect. These are Thargoid biology matters, Thargoid technology samples, and Thargoid resin. Now this will depend on your ship, but I generally suggest collecting 4 units of each. If you've got not enough space, then I suggest collecting 4, then moving on to get another 4 of the various types. You could potentially collect a lot of one resource, but I found that the mission, when it's offered, will pick from one of those 3 materials, and if you've got some of each, there's a better chance of you actually getting the right mission. If you've got a lot of one mission, they're going to end up having to keep throwing them out and picking another mission. So that's what I suggest, and like I said, it depends on your ship as well. If you can get 5 or 6 units like an Anaconda of each, then that's ideal. Like I said, the mission will want up to 4 units in one go. So like I said, once you've collected all your samples, you'll need to head back to Maia to either get the mission you want or to cash in the mission. So let's do that. So once you've collected all your resources, you'll need to head back to Maia. Maia isn't too far. It's around about 37 light years, but you're going to have that jump range after you've collected materials. Like I said, shouldn't affect the jump range too much. So it's in around about 36.68 light years. Inside Maia, you'll need to dock at Obsidian Orbital, which is over here, around about 630 light seconds away. So it's not very far, and should only take you around about a couple of minutes to reach. So this is where we get the mission, and if we plot a route back, I'll show you what happens on the next stage. So on your way back to Obsidian Orbital, you may find you get interdicted a few times. Now what you can do most of the time is just submit to it and boost away. If you've got weapons, yes, you could attack and maybe actually get a few more credits for doing that. It's entirely up to you. So far in an Anaconda, which is not the fastest ship out there, I've been able to evade all these attacks, and so far I haven't had any hull damage from those. If you do get an NPC who won't leave you alone, the best thing to do is, once you get away, is to go into the main menu and to quit that game and then start another. Usually that gets rid of the NPC, but sometimes you get some very persistent NPCs and you might have to do that a couple of times to get rid of them. You should essentially get back without too much troubles. Now the next point, when you get to Maia, you can basically auto dock, or you could dock yourself. It's entirely up to you. Obviously the docking computer uses up what you could put 2 extra tons worth of space, and like I said, it's entirely down to the ship you've got. If you want the 2 extra tons, you could do the docking yourself, but in something like an Anaconda, it's not going to give you that much extra. In the next section, we're going to need to be undocking a few times and docking, so this is where the autopilot is going to be more useful, as it's going to save you a lot of time messing about docking. So once we finally dock, I actually have got a mission already, and I just wanted to show you what the sort of credits you get for doing this. So once we go into our starport services, I would suggest also just refilling your ship as well, because if you haven't got a fuel scoop and all that lot, you don't want to run out of fuel, so just do that at this stage. On the mission board, you'll be seeing a place to cash in our alien artifacts. So we've got 4 units of biological matter to turn in, and turning that in gives us 23.5 million, just over. So that is a pretty fantastic reward for collecting only 4 units. Obviously, like I said, with this ship we've got 16 units of space. So what we need to do now is to show you how you collect the mission, as this is the other part of the whole run. So what we need to do now is to get another mission. If you just wanted to get the mission before collection, you'll be at this stage. So I suggest switching between the game modes when you first dock. So if you're in group play, switch to solo. If you're in solo, switch to group play. As like I said, you avoid open because it's too random what might happen. So as soon as you've loaded, press launch. Like I said, you're going to just be careful. Like I said, if you have just landed, you might have got an incoming message at the top. I suggest you check that straight away. I'll just show you what you need to do in a sec. The ship itself, like I said, you just basically need to get it through the slot, and if you've got an autopilot, you can basically let it do the landing back, as you might have to do this a few times. So just aim for the slot as normal, and what I suggest you do, because you want to clear the docking door essentially, is when you're through the door is to kind of veer to the right or left and basically get away from the entrance. This should get you away quicker. So once you've done that, you can ask for docking, and then once you get docking, you can just let the autopilot do all the work and get you back. So I'm going to cut to the next section and show you what happens when you landed. So we're nearly docked now, and you want to keep an eye on your incoming message at the top right. So as you can see, we've just got an incoming message. So press 2 and go up there, and you can see we've got a mission for 4 units of biological matter. However, the mission is requiring you to go to the Maia point, which is not what we want. So I suggest you press the X. If you don't do that, that mission will still stay in your incoming messages and you won't be offered another one. So make sure you press X and get rid of that mission, as it's not one we want. The reason why we don't want it is it's not to Obsidian Orbital, which is the station we want. You said the units and all that lot were actually pretty good. It's just purely to the wrong location. So what we need to do is to switch to the alternative game mode again and basically do the whole process again and undock and then get the computer to land us back, and then we should potentially get another mission. Like I said, make sure you have actually cleared that mission, because if you don't, it will still stay in your inbox and it will stop any future ones coming in. So we've undocked this time, and we're just coming back into land for another mission to see what we get. Hopefully, like I said, we get 4 units to Obsidian Orbital. Like I said, it doesn't really matter what units they are. But anyway, we need to check. So again, we got another message, this time for 4 units of Thargoid technology samples. Now this is actually to the correct place, which is Obsidian Orbital, and for this we're offered just shy of 21 million. So it might be worth checking your cargo bay just to see what we've got. So we have actually got 5 units of technology samples. So what we can do is to go into the inbox, and then this time onto the tick to accept this mission. Like you said, you could accept it to different locations, but it will make the runs a bit slower. You're going to really have to manage your cargo yourself, and like I said, at this point it might be worth collecting some more after this mission. If you haven't actually collected any resources, now this would be the time to go to HIP and collect what you need. If you can collect more than you need, and then hopefully get the mission you want. So like I said, there's kind of 2 ways of doing this. So back onto the bulletin board, you can see our missions here, and we can claim our just shy of 21 million, which is a pretty fantastic prize, to be honest, and it's pretty easy to do. Like I said, at this point you could actually try and get another mission and to see what we get. If we get one for resin, that'd be great, because that will bring that down even further and we'll kind of have an empty ship. If we don't and we get one for biological matter or technology samples, then we could potentially at this time just fly out to HIP and collect the resources. You could potentially sell these resources to the black market if you want for some extra money. It's really up to you. Myself, I just leave them on board and collect the ones that I'm missing, because essentially you want to get them to all 4 or higher. But sometimes you might find if you get try another mission, you might want 1 unit of biological matter or something, and you could do that for some extra money. It really depends what you want to do at this stage. But all in all, that should help you and explain the whole process. So far I've made around about 700 million out of this, and it seems to be working pretty well as the time being. If you have any comments or suggestions, as normal, please leave them below. They're always greatly welcome. Another thing that will help if you like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. A big thanks to all the guys out there who have done that. Anyway guys, I think that's it for this one. Take care and have fun out there.